pleased were you with the first team defensive performance they turned in, especially in that first half?
It was good. It was really good. I thought we were dominant. A lot of those, there were a lot of 3 and outs in there. Even the one field goal drive, were 2 costly mistakes. It was 3rd and 14. We got a roughing the passer call. They were over aggressive on a bubble and gave up a 30-yard throw. But other than those 2 events, I thought we were pretty dominant.
Awesome.
Got the young DBs, a lot of playing time. What were your assessment of them, and what do you want to see? What did you like, and what do you want to see improved?
We actually got Conrad in an early time. He subbed in there. He was in there with the first defense for a series. Almost had a pick on his first play. Ball had hit the ground. So that was the plan. So he got in there fairly early. Ashwin Barker got in there fairly early. And then we got a chance early in that 3rd quarter to get the rest of them in there. And it was good. You can't replace game time. You try to replicate it on the practice field. But they're all smiling a little bit wider at the end of the game because they knew they got the experience.
Kirk?
Coach Kirk, I mentioned, I think it was 102 guys that all played. I think 50 of them were on defense. How valuable are these games? I mean, I think not many of the first team guys played above like 25 snaps. I mean, both for what you can do for those young guys getting them the in-game experience, but also, I mean, it's early in the season, but it's a long season. The lesser load you can get for the guys you're going to rely on a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt, we try to get out in front as fast as we can in every game, but when that opportunity happens, I mean, I looked up and there were 14 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter, and I'm making the call to the defensive staff, and I'm starting to look up at the clock, and then I think we went down and scored again. So it was just when we're putting some of these guys in, obviously we think there's a chance that they can help us at one point, especially this year. So we really started to empty it towards the end of the game. But when you're in the 3rd quarter, those are all players that have been in competition for roles, just not quite there yet. Is it just experience that they need? Maybe, but I think it helps us. It helps build the team. I mean, when you can sit down at a team meeting, there's 100 guys that played the game. That's good for morale, not just because of your execution, the way you won the game, but just because they were involved and they were out there.
Ira?
A lot of some of the guys that you guys coach now weren't even alive when 9/11 happened. And Coach Norvell said he talked to the team about it, and Boston College is going to have their red band in again. You were coaching in New York at the time?
I was at Wagner College, and I can remember I had a meeting with his name was Ryan Castellani because he had class, so I had to meet with him. And it was early in the morning, and when I got done with the meeting, my mother had called and said, there's a plane crash. Did you hear about it? I said, I didn't. So we had a later staff meeting that day. It might have been a Monday. And so I was going to go for a jog, and I jogged up because you could see the scene from Wagner Stadium across the harbor right into Manhattan. And so I went to the stands. I looked across, and both towers were on fire. I could kind of see it, and I had no idea because I was by myself jogging. And so I jogged back into the athletic center, and it was just chaos. I mean, people were hiding under desks, and F-14 fighters were flying over. And my wife Hope was a school teacher in PS5 at that time, and I couldn't talk to her. And it was hard because our head coach couldn't get over the bridge to get to the team. So I kind of had to, try to gather everybody together. And it was just, we had a lot of players with a lot of family that were involved in downtown Manhattan at that time. So obviously it's nobody will ever forget that day, but just, it was just an unbelievable event. And I can still taste the soot when we went down there, because we went down to try to, help. Our actually equipment manager, John Houlihan, was an FDNY firefighter, retired, and he went right in. And we didn't see him for a week, and maybe a month after, he moved down to Palm Beach, and he's never come back, to New York. So I actually works down at Cardinal Newman High School, I think, as an equipment manager. So, but yeah, just to think that was 20 years ago was pretty sobering.
Do the players have any understanding when coach is talking to them?
I don't know. It's not one of those events that you bring up all the time. It takes days like this, unfortunately, to kind of talk about it. But you know, I found myself sharing, you know, my events with our staff at times because you were there, you know, and it was so close. So, you know, I think it's our job to educate you know, these guys that weren't there because it's all part of our history. And I don't know how it affects them or how they think of it right now. But yeah.
Aslan?
Back in football, defensive tackle, we think so much about Fabian and Braden, but just a guy like Malcolm Ray to be able to kind of trust in himself, trust in you guys, and you know, pay off now with the way he's able to play for you guys. And Dennis Briggs as well seems to be a disruptive force. How pleasant of a development are they for you guys up front?
Expected. Dennis Briggs has probably been the most impactful defensive lineman we've had in the first 2 games, to be honest with you. I mean, the amount of times that he's gotten in the face of the quarterback, I think he's got production, I think he's got sack numbers already, but, you know, I'm really proud of the way he's playing right now. You know, the rep count hasn't been very high just because of the way the last game went, but his impact in the first 2 games has been felt, you know, by me significantly. That's not saying the other guys aren't doing a good job, but, you know, I name him out. You know, Malcolm's a battler. You know, he's coming off that injury, and, you know, he's given us good reps. I know what we're going to get. You know, I think his technique and his comfortability with coming back off that injury from last year is a constant work in progress. But, you know, he plays meaningful snaps for us, and he's part of our D-line rotation.
Kurt?
I know Coach Darvell mentioned Blake Nicholson as one of the younger guys who kind of made the most of his opportunity. I know he was in on a lot of plays. I guess, what did you see from him, and who else from that group? Maybe they won't have huge roles this year, but you're interested in what you'll see from them in those moments really stood out to you.
Well, I'll answer the Blake thing. You know, Blake, over the last, maybe since we got back from Jacksonville, you know, early on, like summer workouts, you saw the athletic ability, but you got to remember, you know, Blake was a running back, safety, corner. You know, he looked like that when he was first here, and it was just, you know, trying to go through it. It's like, I don't know if he's going to be ready to help, but you saw the traits there. So maybe a special teams role, but really since we got back from Jacksonville, I think Randy's done a really good job with him of simplifying it, teaching him, and, you know, I remember some of the questions Blake would ask me, and I'd give him the answer and walk away and be like, oh boy, this could be a while. And now I'll say, Blake, you're playing a lot faster, and he'll say like the reasons why. And so it shows you how committed he is to improving, because I mentioned DJ Lindy's probably our most improved linebacker over the last year, but Blake's the most improved one over the last month. And, you know, to see him out there, I mean, he does not look like a ball in high grass. You know, he looks like he belongs, physically he does. He also had an unbelievable toe tap interception, and for a linebacker to just locate, find it, and almost get that play done, and he's disappointed that he didn't make it, you know. So I think we're trying to get him involved on more of the kick cover stuff, but you know, I think if he continues to progress, he'll have a role in our defense here as the season progresses.
Yeah, can you talk about the challenge of their quarterback? I know Daniels is probably a bigger kid, but are they similar in the way they run and what they can do when they get outside containment?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, you know, that, you know, you thought they had somebody that they felt really good about until the 4th series of the season, you know, and now it's somebody else completely. And so, you know, not sure how that dynamic all played out, but now, you know, you really have 2 full games on Castellanos, you know, and watching him. I mean, he plays like a slot receiver. You know, he's more in and out of cuts. You know, the difference between a slot and him is he has the ball in his hands, and he has the ability to pump fake people too, to get people out of the way. But he's definitely got legitimate quickness. He plays with a lot of confidence, you know, I mean, and, you know, he's, you know, made some throws last week against Holy Cross that he didn't make against NIU. So, you know, I wouldn't say he's Jaden Daniels, but he definitely offers a unique skill set for the position of extreme quickness.
We'll go to Ira for the last one.
Southern Miss didn't seem like they were going to hold the ball very long, quarterback, so Jared probably didn't get a lot of opportunities, none of the pass rushers necessarily, but how's Jared handling not putting up big numbers? I mean, there's so much hype on him, there's so many expectations, and I'm sure he's happy with the way the defense is playing, but how's he handling not getting big numbers in?
Yeah, I actually complimented him. I thought his game against last week against Southern Miss was actually even a cleaner game than it was against LSU, and he probably had more of an impact statistically against LSU. And you know, I thought he actually played really well, you know, against Southern Miss. And trust me, as the game gets going, he's one of them. Like, tell JB to put me in, coach, put me back in, right? And it's all right, Jared. Just make sure you root for these guys right now, you know. But I thought he had. I thought he played a really clean, aggressive, fast game, you know, and he had two. On the pick six, he counted the level, and usually we have to block the quarterback when we pick the ball off. It's part of the routine. Well, he was on top of him the entire play, so that helped. One of Dennis Briggs' sacks, he overrushed and just with great effort, you know, basically got in on it. And I thought Jared played a really good game. And so, you know, back to work this week, and I think we all know his production will be there, you know, when the end of the season comes. The biggest thing is he's helping our football team.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.